XCOM 2 is a brutal, bloody, and frustrating game, and I just love it. Alright, the long-awaited sequel to XCOM, XCOM 2, released already. And I've been playing it for the past week. Have I finished the game? No, I have not, because I'm a freaking masochistic idiot. I'm playing the game in the second highest difficulty level at Iron Man mode. For those of you unfamiliar with XCOM or what Iron Man mode is, Iron Man mode means that there are no takebacks. The game does the saving for you, meaning your save file only occurs when you exit the game or at the end of every mission. So basically that means that if I lose a soldier, I lose them for good. If I make a mistake, I have no way of going back, turning time back in the game to try and rectify that mistake. So yes, it's very, very brutal and difficult and frustrating, but it's what XCOM is. If you're going into this game thinking that it's gonna be looking for an easy peasy, shoot 'em up game, command your troops to shoot something up, don't play it. You'll probably be able to get away with that in the lowest difficulty. I haven't tried, but for me that sort of goes against the essence of what XCOM 2 is. XCOM 2 has always, the XCOM franchise has always been known for its difficulty. This is a calling back to the previous gaming generation, my generation, when games were actually very hard to play, and that was the whole point. The game was supposed to challenge your skill, and make you feel good when you actually manage to overcome the difficult game. So yeah, so today we're gonna be doing a review of XCOM 2, and unlike my previous review videos, we'll be following a certain format. We'll be rating the game in 5 different areas, which would be graphics, sounds, story, gameplay, and bang for buck. So I'll explain each as we go through them. So we'll start with graphics. Graphics is basically doesn't necessarily pertains particularly to just how beautiful the game is. If the graphical style is retro 2D, but it lends itself or it enhances the gaming experience, it'll rank higher in my rating. Alright, as for XCOM 2, graphics-wise, it's definitely an improvement from XCOM 1. The models look better, the textures look better, and it doesn't try to go too overboard with it, considering that this is we'll be seeing the game mostly from an isometric top-down view, so the graphics requirements isn't actually that high, to enjoy the game. However, what I do find annoying is that the graphics of the game is somewhat not optimized. When I'm playing the game on my laptop, the Asus G750JS, I get stutters. I average only around, on the high settings, I average only around 35 frames per second. Toning down a couple of things, I was able to tweak it up a bit, and I get an average of around 40 frames per second. That isn't too bad, because like I mentioned, high FPS count isn't actually actually a necessity for this type of game. But the spikes that I get, that sometimes while the action cam is moving or the ship is moving from one point to another, suddenly you get dips of down to less than 20 frames per second. And although, like I mentioned, it's not particularly critical since this is mostly turn-based. It is annoying. What annoys me the most is how unforgivable for me this is, because they released this game solely specifically for PC. So I was expecting that the graphics would be more or less optimized better than this. You know, not expecting 60 frames per second and glorious detail. I mean, we all know that could be hardware related and stuff. But I mean, the sudden dips, can't even run it on a smooth 30 FPS. I mean, according to the news reports, they're gonna be releasing a patch to address this. I hope they do. But still, for me, kind of unforgivable considering that this was a PC-only release and the graphics weren't optimized well for the PC. So with that, I'd give XCOM 2 a rating of 3 out of 5 for the graphics. Alright, sounds. Okay, right off the bat, sounds is basically the same thing. The background music, the sound effects, the voiceovers. Basically, same thing. Doesn't have to be as precision. Doesn't have to be high definition audio, surround sound, and the like. If the sound enhances the gaming experience, then it gets a higher rating. Now, right off the bat, I'm gonna have to tell you, I'm not really a very sound kind of guy. So don't expect me to be able to rate this in a very fine detail. Unless it's something spectacularly awesome, like the Witcher 3 soundtrack, or something spectacularly awful, like off-sync voice acting and stuff like that. You'd probably be seeing me rate a lot of games on the sound at around 3. So same thing. XCOM 2 sounds is, the voiceovers are okay. The sound effects are okay. The background music is okay. I mentioned I'm not a sound kind of guy, so I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Just call it that and move on. Alright, next. We're gonna be talking about the story. Okay, so the original XCOM 1 didn't really have a lot of story behind it, but again, that's sort of expected. It's not really a story-heavy type of game that you're playing. In XCOM 2, however, they did manage to put in a few interesting story plots in it. Now, I haven't finished the game completely, so I haven't experienced the full story of the game. But from what I've played so far, this is a notch above what XCOM 1 had. So, for story, I'd have to give them credit for actually being able to put in interesting plots and twists that makes me want to actually find out what happens in the game. For that, I'd give them a solid 4 out of 5. Definitely an improvement, and I would like to see more of this if they ever make an XCOM 3. Alright, so next would be the gameplay. Now, the gameplay of XCOM 2 is pretty much similar to XCOM 1, and that's not a bad thing. XCOM 1's gameplay was actually good. Turn-based, they managed to simplify it from the very first ever XCOM game into something that's easy to follow but not too dumbed down that it becomes child's play. You'll be playing in 2 modes basically when you're doing the actual commanding of your troops during missions. That's the tactical gameplay right there. And then you have a higher level of gameplay, or the strategic gameplay, where you decide what resources, what missions to take on, what to do with the resources you've acquired, what rooms to build in your base, stuff like that. It's actually pretty good gameplay. Much better than XCOM 1. So more freedom and the like. Another thing of special note for me is in XCOM 1, character customization was a little iffy. Character meaning not your character. Character meaning your soldiers' customization. You really couldn't change what they looked like, their nationality, so on and so forth. XCOM 2 goes overboard with this, and it's just awesome. It allows you to build so many different characters. You'd actually be able to search online, and you'd see people making celebrity characters and characters from other games and incorporating it into XCOM 2. The great thing about that is once you actually have a character that you like, you may spend time to like customize into what you want, you can then actually upload the character file for other people to use. And that's a very nice touch right there. Another thing that I liked was in XCOM 1, if you played it a great deal, especially in the higher difficulty levels and when you're doing Iron Man mode, you'd actually see some players who get very invested in their characters and when they're soldiers, and when their soldiers die, they tend to pay a little homage to their soldiers by posting on the forums a screenshot of their soldier, a tale of how they died, so on and so forth. You know, and you'd actually get some people who would sympathize with the loss of the soldiers. Basically, the players were able to create these interesting and amazing stories centered around their soldiers, their squads, and so on. I have a couple of my own, but I'm not gonna discuss them here. Maybe sometime I'll make a video about one of my soldiers, or probably one of my soldiers in XCOM 2 now, if I ever find someone with an interesting story. But in XCOM 2, though you can still do this, upload in the forum and such, they managed to include a little bit of something to help people do this a bit better. In the memorial section, meaning the section of the ship where you can view your fallen soldiers, basically portraits, you can then add they added this space where you can actually, it's not very long, you can't write very long stories there, but it allows you to write a few words about your soldiers, and it actually gets saved in the game. So it's a nice little, it's minor, doesn't really affect gameplay, but for those of us who actually felt for our soldiers, it's a nice little touch. So for gameplay, I'm giving XCOM 2 a 4 out of 5. This one. Alright, last but not the least is bang for buck. What does bang for buck mean? Basically, we compare the price of the game to what it offers, and basically how much you're getting, how much your money is worth if you buy this game. As an example of this would be, let's say, Fallout 4. Fallout 4 would actually be very high in the bang for buck because of the replayability, the virtually unlimited mods you can incorporate into the game, so on and so forth. So that's one of the examples. For XCOM 2, the bang for buck for me is the replayability is very high. Even if you manage to finish the game, you can replay the game even in the same difficulty, and you'd get completely different experience. This is partially because missions tend to use, it's not really a completely randomized map, but there's a procedural, if I'm not mistaken, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but they're using a procedural map generator in where it's more or less the same area, but the placement of certain things can be different, including the enemy squads, where they're located, so on and so forth. So what this does is it makes every gameplay that you go through different in its own way. Of course, XCOM 2 also unlocked modding, which is normally done through the Steam Workshop. And on day 1, they actually contacted the guys who did the Long War mod for XCOM 1. and had them make 3 mods for day 1. It's not spectacularly huge mods, but very nice mods nonetheless. So because you can mod the game, the replayability of the game outside of additional DLCs that they might release in the future, I'm actually gonna be giving XCOM to another it's either 4 or 5. Still, yeah. I mean, Fallout 4 was the benchmark for bang for buck for me, so that one was a 5. I'd say XCOM 2 would be a 4. This one. All right. So if you guys agree or disagree with my review, please leave a comment down below. If you like the video, please hit the like button, and please don't forget to subscribe. Next video is actually gonna be Jackie's video, so I'm excited for that. They'll be reviewing Tom Clancy, the Division. Right, see you guys next time.